What's good? It's Wood. Rising lightweight star Devin Haney just beat former Olympic gold medalist and former featherweight champion Yuriorkis Gamboa via unanimous decision. He won almost every round. Many might even agree that he won every round. Yet this all feels clouded and overshadowed by the backdrop of the Teofimo Lopez win over Vasyl Lomachenko. Shoot, and the Gervonta Davis knockout of Leo Santa Cruz. And I'm talking KO without the T. All anybody was talking about leading up to Haney versus Gamboa was, can Haney blow us away as much as Teofimo Lopez and Gervonta Davis just did? And talking in a way that suggested that Devin Haney was somehow behind schedule or is somehow lessened in his career development by those two other fights. And let's be clear, those were outstanding and shocking performances. But the commentary around Devin Haney is just puzzling. I mean, I even heard on the DAZN broadcast, they were even throwing Ryan Garcia into it like, but is he marketable like Ryan Garcia? Guys, Devin Haney is 21 years old. He turns 22 next week. Calm the hell down. Make no mistake, Teofimo Lopez is also a young fighter. He's 23, almost 2 years older than Devin. And Teo was clearly the first to reach ultimate glory by defeating the legendary Vasyl Lomachenko and claiming all of the major lightweight belts in a fight where he was and should have been a big underdog. The thought of him coming in at 23 years old with Richard Comey as his only serious opponent and then beating Lomachenko sounded like a long shot, especially when the fight was first announced. But Teo did that, and now all these other young fighters need to keep hearing about it. Like, well, what you been doing? And what can you say? Teofimo Lopez took the big gamble and beat Vasyl Lomachenko. Then Gervonta Tank Davis just dropped one weight class down to 130 to fight the great Leo Santa Cruz, who's basically coming up in weight. He had one fight there, and whose only loss was a close decision to Carl Frampton, and then Santa Cruz returned to win in an equally close decision in the rematch with Frampton. So Santa Cruz has been a bad boy, and Davis dramatically knocked him out with an uppercut in the 6th round of a very exciting and competitive fight. So no, there wasn't anything Devin Haney could do versus Yuriorkis Gamboa to keep pace with Lopez and Davis's recent performances. Even if he stopped Gamboa, Gervonta also stopped Gamboa less than a year ago. Gamboa was 38 and just had a torn Achilles. So now you've got the, well, you should have finished him. But that's really the illusion in this one, isn't it? Because Devin Haney, again, is 21 years old and he's still fighting Yuriorkis Gamboa. In my Haney versus Gamboa preview video, I suggested that although Gamboa is coming off an Achilles tear in that late TKO loss versus Tank Davis, and that Haney should be a big favorite here, that Gamboa's an experienced vet and probably has a savvy to either make this competitive, and if not, can very possibly survive and make this a decision loss. Keep in mind, Gamboa is 38, but it's not like he's been getting walloped over the years. Inactivity stole most of Gamboa's prime. Losing didn't. He was taking 1 to 2 years off multiple times as an undefeated champion, and he didn't first lose until that Terrence Crawford showdown. And since that, he'd only lost twice before this Devin Haney fight, and neither of those losses was like an obliteration. So I don't know where people would get the idea that Gamboa, a former Olympic gold medalist, was somehow just going to get blown away by a 21-year-old. The Achilles injury is what even makes that a maybe. But here's the thing, there's nothing wrong with Haney dominating Gamboa and winning by decision here. He's right on schedule. In fact, Devin Haney is kind of in a Floyd Mayweather in the early 2000s situation. I'm not comparing their early resumes. Floyd had already won some championships and was doing his thing by the early 2000s. Devin Haney is still largely unproven, but I'm talking basically Floyd's career up to the Arturo Gatti fight, which was still before his commercial crowning versus that era's kingmaker, Oscar De La Hoya. So check it out. Floyd did the 96 Olympics, and then he was on his winning ways professionally by 97 and won his first major title in 98 against the aging Hall of Famer Gennaro Chiquinito Hernandez. But even then, and for several years after that, Floyd would go to weight class after weight class, winning multiple titles, and started appearing in the top 3 of a lot of pound-for-pound lists. Yet, Floyd was still in the shadows, popularity-wise, of the Golden Boy, Oscar De La Hoya, of Roy Jones Jr., Felix Tito Trinidad. Even the more explosive puncher, Sugar Shane Mosely, was more commercially successful and popular than Floyd during that time. Hell, Floyd was the one doing those frustrated post-fight interviews with Larry Merchant, who'd keep asking Floyd why can't he land a big fight, or whether his technical style was keeping fans from being interested in him. And Merchant's asking him these things fight after fight, one brilliant performance after another. This is several years into Floyd's professional career, and Floyd's not making Mosely money, Trinidad money, certainly not Oscar money, not until the eventual showdown with Oscar. So Devin, don't let these talking heads and the boxing public rush you. Teofimo Lopez was the first to claim the crown. That's fine. Gervonta Davis is still well ahead and more proven, experience-wise. That's fine. Floyd Mayweather was once the guy on the outside looking in too. I see Devin Haney defending himself on social media, talking about, well, I took less punishment than both Terrence Crawford and Gervonta Davis in fighting Yuriorkis Gamboa. He doesn't have to prove himself and explain why he didn't take somebody's head off with one vicious uppercut. He's got his craft, and he just needs to stick to that game plan. Knockouts will come. But yeah, Floyd for years was the one trying to beat on the door, trying to get a big fight. And like Teofimo Lopez versus Lomachenko, Shane Mosely and Felix Trinidad both earned wins over Oscar De La Hoya before Mayweather did. So Haney did what he had to do versus Gamboa, who did have some interesting moments here and there, not many. Haney's excellent at controlling spacing, which again is the defensively responsible way to fight. It's masterful stuff. I think Sergio Mora on the DAZN broadcast was calling out the reflex instinct of Haney's back foot anytime his opponent advances. He sets up nice counters by having that back foot ready to take another small step back and then to, plant off of it and throw a hard counter. Now, I will say this, even when Haney was 16, 17, fighting professionally in Tijuana, Mexico, I didn't think he had a ton of power. But then again, he was a kid fighting grown men. So we'll see if he grows into a bigger puncher. But as of now, he's not looking like a born puncher like Gervonta Davis is. That's fine. Mayweather wasn't as hard a puncher as Shane Mosely. So if Devin Haney truly is the cream of the crop, he'll certainly rise to the top, regardless of what Teofimo Lopez, Tank Davis, Ryan Garcia, and Shakur Stevenson do. Developmentally, Haney's advancing and is coming along just fine. But let me know your thoughts on the Haney versus Gamboa fight. Again, solid performance by Devin Haney. It wasn't spectacular, but it was impressive. But this fight just happened to happen within a month of us watching two of the most consequential fights in any of the lower divisions of the past 5 to 10 years. Tough act to follow. That's just the here and now. Give it a year, 2 years, 3 years. If Haney is what he's supposed to be, he'll be just fine. So please, leave your comments in the comments, like the video, subscribe to the channel if you are into the fight talk. I'm Woog. Thanks for tuning in.